This young man, man, let me tell you the first time we had him come to Vegas. He came to Vegas and we have a memorable time, but we came to Vegas. We were in our old company and he came down and I wanted him to bring his Lamborghini and he hitched it up to one of his vehicles, drove the Lamborghini down, Ferrari, Mercedes. And I tell you what, I remember when I was first got this young man in the business, we would do meetings at his penthouse, and Mr. Julian Lewis talks about that. At his penthouse, we could watch the Padres play from his penthouse. Yeah, the baseball team. Yeah, and And I tell you what, he's also the mentor that Mr. Julian Lewis talked about when he went to the penthouse, who mentored him. So this young man mentored Mr. Julian Lewis to the man he is today, and a beautiful and great leader that we really respect. This young man, Mr. Nekoda Bragg, also met a beautiful lady named Monica. She was in law school, convinced her that network marketing was the way to go, dropped out of law school, did ACM full time, and she's mentored many ladies and couples. Mr. and Mrs. Bragg were COC members for the last 15 years for our company. They were there. I mean, I did 10, they did 15 consecutively. You know what I'm saying? 15 years plus consecutively. He's also one of the top income earners in the industry. And without further ado, my dear friend from all the way from San Diego, California, the great, the one and only, Mr. Nekoda Bragg.
Hey, thank you so much, Mr. Thomas. What a great morning. What a great start to the morning. I got my Yoda shirt on for the ultimate Yoda, Mr. Al Thomas. I got my baby Yoda shirt on. But first of all, guys, look at all those incredible network marketing professionals there on the Zoom. Hello all, and Mr. Julian Lewis, a legend in the freaking making. What's up, dude? A long time no speak. And I'll tell you this, one correction, Monica did not drop out of law school. She graduated with honors.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, in fact, that's her Juris Doctorate degree on the wall back there, $250,000 receipt. So we don't use it at all. But I'll tell you this, you know, I really wanted to share this with you guys. You know, when Mr. Thomas asked me to get on the call, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, no matter how many days I wake up in my life in the last, so one of the, I'll frame it. You know, when I got started in network marketing and they told me that I had unlimited income potential, I wanted to put that to the test. When they told me that, you know, you could make your own schedule, be your own boss, wake up when you want to wake up, eat what you want to eat. You don't have to order from the right side of the menu. You can actually order from the left side of the menu where the items are, not the prices, right? And I thought, wow, God dang, this is like a miracle in a box for a few $100. And when they told me this stuff, I thought in my mind, like, there's no way. There's no way this is true. There's no way you could have this kind of lifestyle. There's no way. It's just impossible. There's just that much freedom is not given in corporate America, you know, and there's just not that perspective. You can't compare something to something you don't know about, right? You can't talk about something or understand the scope of what it's like to be Mr. Al Thomas or to be a SVP in the company or even a regional vice president. It's like trying to describe the color green. How do you describe green? It's kind of like between blue and you can't describe green. So knowing that there is no way to physically understand, mentally understand what network marketing is at its greatest level, imagine giving that to a guy that's never even experienced lifestyle in any way, shape, or form. It was impossible to articulate a conversation that would be received enough for me to do the things I needed to do to actually get that lifestyle. It was impossible. It's like somebody coming up to you, if you don't speak German or Deutsch, somebody coming up to you saying, sprechen Sie Deutsch, and you go 9, and then they just go in. Even though you don't speak Deutsch, they start talking to you in German. You're like, wait a minute, what? In fact, I put in more, the reason I know a couple words in German, I put in more German IBOs and European that live in Italy. It's weird. This little cluster of IBOs that come from different parts that all speak German for Deutsch for some reason. recently than I have in the US. It's insane. But I'll tell you this. Imagine someone trying to have this conversation with you, articulate this conversation. It's impossible if there's no construct for it. And then one day, they said there was this guy coming into town. This guy was balling, and I needed to be there to hear. And I was very, very skeptical about this whole industry. And then Mr. Al Thomas showed up. And I remember him walking in, and see, at the time I had a mentor, right? My mentor, before I got involved in this industry, my mentor was Jay-Z. Some of you guys may have heard of him, right? Jay-Z was my mentor. And I remember him talking about Rolexes and Louis the 13th and all this crap that it seemed like that, you know, it really doesn't matter now today, right? Obviously, family, relationships, doing the right thing, you know, just trying to empower yourself, your family, your future is way more important than obviously those material things. But that was where I got my financial education, MTV, right? Like a lot of people did. And I'll tell you that I remember Jay-Z rapping about all the stuff that Al Thomas showed up to our meeting with. I remember Jay-Z rapping about Rolexes, and he talked about brilliance. That's where I first heard the name brilliance. It's a diamond and a Rolex, right? And I knew more about Rolexes, but I had never seen one in real life. I knew more about things that were completely in this fantasy world, and then this man shows up. In fact, his Rolex, if you're sitting in the front row, you couldn't see because it was blinding you. It was diamond o'clock everywhere. And I'm like, dang, they could fit that many stones on one watch. Why? Just why? Right? It messed the look of the watch up there. So many. But I was like, this guy comes into San Diego, and I remember the conversation. Who is this guy with this watch? And he goes up to the front of the room, smelling like $1 million, same energy he has now, even though that was over 20 years ago. That was 1 score ago, right? They create historical documents with the word score in it. That's how long ago that was. And that was 1 score ago. Mr. Thomas showed up to that event, and he spoke and shared a message with me and the people that we all invited and built heavily into, that really shaped the frame of what I was to receive for the rest of my career in network marketing. You know, he showed me that someone can go out there and literally achieve a certain pinnacle of success. He was living that lifestyle. He made fun of himself and everyone around him. He made fun of corporate America people. He had great humility, but humor. It was more like a, you know, kind of like a trainication. Like it was like a vacation, education mixed with training. And he created this framework that I will never forget. You know, and he ran into somebody that was on my team in Vegas a week ago, and that guy asked, he said, "Hey, are you Mr. Al Thomas?" And Al, did you share with the group what he said to you?
I didn't share that in the group at all. And I didn't recognize, because I had my mask on. He had a mask on, but no, I didn't share that. You go ahead and share it.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't recognize him, but he came up to Mr. Thomas and said, "Hey, I've never formally met you, but you mentored my mentor, and because you now today, this guy was a multimillionaire, but it went through 3-4 generations, maybe actually more than that, maybe about 7 generations deep, because of that same meeting. Al's doing his, you know, morning exercise at 5 a.m. and runs into a guy that he impacted his life indirect. This is this week, right? So I got to tell you guys, like, this is like what we're doing here is so freaking special, right? What ASEAN is onto is so freaking special. What they figured out is so darn unique that no one truly can get it until you get it. But once you get it, you ain't gonna ever want to let it go. And the thing with this regional vice president, platinum, senior vice president success level, it comes at a price. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be way worth it. It wasn't easy, but it was beyond worth it. See, the reason it wasn't easy is because most of you guys don't have a problem talking to a friend, associating with someone. But for me, my first 6 years growing up, I was in a special school because I could not talk well. In fact, I stuttered more than I spoke. A lot of people don't know that. See, for me, learning how to even say my name was a challenge. But in that same setback was the setup that God had intended for me to continue learning. See, some of us get humbled early and some of us get humbled later in life. And I got to tell you, being humbled at a very early age, being put in these special classes, watching my little brother get set back year after year. He was the oldest kid in his class. And you can't imagine how cruel little kids are when they have no filter because they have twisted parents that say weird things and do weird things in front of them and model jacked up behavior. And those kids, I remember the first day I was made fun of after I tried in Mr. Graves' class, 5th grade. I stepped out of the box. Other kids were doing it. You could do it. I could talk. So I tried to answer a question I knew I had the answer to. There was no maybe. That's the only answer I did have. So I was like ready. And I remember trying to speak and my words wouldn't come out of my face the way that I had envisioned them to come out of my face and my head. And I'll never forget the kid behind me. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. I remember the minute I started stuttering on my words, he goes, repeat. And I remember how what little bit of courage, my little heart that I had in my chest just disappeared. There was no more. It was gone, 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 baby. You could hang a star on it. There was no chance that scared, fragile, nothing special, every name called, especially, the greatest man I know in this world is my father, but he would be in his close to 90 years old today. And I remember Julian being at a leadership I did the day he passed. And the reason I share that with you, maybe Julian will tell you that story one day, but I did a powerful leadership and we are making plans for my father to come home, but he had passed that morning at 1 a.m. And I had a decision to make. Do I cancel all my ACN meetings? Do I cancel my leadership? Or do I do what my father would want me to do? Live my best life ever. And so I chose to do the leadership. And it was probably one of the most powerful. No one even knew until the very end. And then there was not a dry eye in the room. I even think the buff Mr. Lewis had a tear or 2 or 3. But I'll tell you this. My father was the greatest man I knew. And when he got upset, he's old school. My mom is old school. She's in her mid 80s. And, they were 3 generations from, you think something wrong. You think about doing something wrong. It's beat down time. And I'm telling you, that was ingrained in their philosophy. And so when I couldn't answer questions or read because I saw words differently on paper, that was so much that my mom couldn't believe because I seemed normal. I didn't look like, I had Down syndrome or anything. So the fact that I couldn't speak well was bad enough. But if you can't read well, she thought that I was probably faking it or like I was trying intentionally not to understand the words on the paper. So obviously school didn't go so well for Nekoda Bragg. But you know what? I spent 5 years in the community college. That's a 2-year degree, in case you guys don't know. That's almost in every country. I'm the opposite of Monica. So I'll tell you this. I still don't have that degree. But there's this little thing inside of me that says push and push and push until you win. Don't give up. Work as harder on yourself than you work on the business. And the business will be easy. See, I came from not being able to talk, not being able to communicate, articulate a message, not being able to have a normal environment. And if you think getting a no when you're inviting someone into a meeting is tough, man, there's a whole lot of people out there going through a whole lot more. And you got to put your big boy pants on, your grown-up girl pants on, because it is a real world, and this is not a dress rehearsal. And so the only gift, the only setback I had, I thought was a curse, my ability to read and my lack of speaking ability. I thought those were the worst punishment any kid could ever have. But isn't it interesting that today, my biggest fear, my worst curse, because I had that heart and that courage to keep trying to communicate. We went to special classes that a company, multiple companies have paid me a couple of bucks to speak. Isn't that interesting? So I realize that, today I try to read the Bible every chance I get. I don't want to make an excuse for not reading the Bible. So whenever I go to the restroom and I have a moment to myself, I'll read the Bible, because we're in the process of adopting 2 8-year-old twins. And that's, I don't know if you've ever done that with 2 older children, but that's very time consuming, say the least, because they work on, anyway. But so when I'm in the restroom, I'll read the Bible. If I'm sitting around getting ready for a call to start, I'll just grab a Bible. And I never know what God has in store. But I'll tell you this, focusing more on the things that matter. See, what do I mean by the things that matter? What's our end goal here? What's our end game? See, we're in the relationship building business. So let's talk about some things that may affect you directly. I have to frame the conversation, though, because if you think this public speaker, this guy that's on national stages, that trained consecutively since he joined the COC at the live internationals. I suck at webinars. I still don't know how to run the slides. I know that the founders all are not happy at me. It's bad, but I will never be able to but anyway, there's limits to your growth, right? So here's the question. What's really important? We're in the relationship building business. Think about every industry first before I go into that. Give you guys some goodies. It took the industrial industry 100 years to change the world. Jot that down. You're going to like where this is going. 100 years industrial industry to change the world. It took the internet industry, the industry of the internet, 25 years to change the surface of the planet forever. Write that down. It took wireless 10 years, 1 decade, to change the surface, the landscape of this world forever. Wireless took 10, believe it or not, faster than the internet. It took COVID 1 year to change the world. 1 year to change the world. See, when things happen today, because we're in the information age, they're going to happen much faster than they've ever done before. Things are going to be way different than they've ever been before. And even if you don't need to be regional vice president, let me tell you something. That's the easiest insurance policy for a good life you can ever possibly get for you and your family. I pray that you guys measure what matters. Write this down, M&M. M&M. Let's call it multimillionaire, right? Well, what does it take to become a multimillionaire? Well, it's actions measured in millimeters. Success is measured in millimeters to make multi-millions of dollars in this industry. We all have heard inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's a hard. Yard by yard, in my opinion, would be getting one guest on a presentation a week or two. Inch by inch is a single guest per day on a presentation exposure. Millimeters, well, shoot, there's no limit to how many guests you can get. And you're judging your day by a minimal standard. A minimal standard. For 20 years, I've been in network marketing, and I've had that challenge speaking, which made me master communicating conversation. Learning when to stop, when to pause, tempos. You don't have to yell at people. I'm a firm believer. You don't have to yell at people. You just got to talk. And sometimes they might not mind if you stutter a little bit. I found out people are pretty forgiving when it comes to stuttering. I never forget the day that Mr. Thomas came to San Diego and did a training, and he started making fun of this guy who stuttered that read the Bible. You guys probably heard of it. At the time, I was like, is he going to call me out? My heart, I felt like I was in 5th grade all over again, right? I had no idea that I would be telling that same joke 1 year later. But you know what? It's one of those things where if you're measuring by millimeters, success is called inevitable because certain laws perpetuate that success. See, I had to learn the laws that surround laws like gravity. You jump off of a roof of 10-story building, you're dead. Gravity will win every time. So I had to learn the law of success. It has nothing to do with whether you're talented, good. Do you have a supreme work ethic? See, I've never heard or read about a famous person that had a good work ethic that won big. Never, not a single one, ever in audio, nothing. But I've always heard about their insatiable work ethic, their drive being second to none. Why is it I couldn't find one? I've listened to hundreds of scholars on success because they've all done it in different industries. Well, wouldn't it make sense that I would be able to find one that didn't? Because I was lazy. So I didn't want to hear all these work ethic conversation. Then I realized success is changing your mind. See, a squirrel in the forest will do the same thing a squirrel does for 5,000 years. Eat the same nuts, climb the same trees. But a human is made in his image, and they have the right to change their mind at any time. So it doesn't matter what you did for the first 55 years of your life. If 56th year, you say, this is it. See, the laws of success surround that philosophy, not opposite, they are it. And if you're measuring your success by millimeters, that means every day. When do you turn the ACN on, Nekoda? When I sign the application. When do you turn it off? When I'm dead. You rest when you die. Sleep. My phone rings. Hello. Mr. Thomas called me today. He said, you got 12 minutes. I said, what? I felt like I just went to bed, sir. Can I make some coffee? Nope. You need to be on in 12 minutes. I'm going to tell you something. Look, success is measured in millimeters. It's not inches. Success is inevitable. You know what inevitable is? If you understand the laws, here's inevitable. You have $100 million. A billionaire shared this with me that lives in my neighborhood. He goes, if you have $100 million to go from 100 million to 101 million or 110 million or 100 and he said 110 million. He said that's called inevitable. You physically cannot put your money in a place. Excuse me. Hey, security.
This is security, and I have the DAB, the donations truck here.
Yep. Yeah, let the donations people in.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Sorry, my wife has a bad habit of buying a lot of stuff and then donating it like a week later. And the security gate at the first gate had to buzz them in. But sorry about that. So where the heck was I? See, you don't gotta be smart to make money in this business. I'm telling you.
If you have 100 million.
Oh yeah, if you have 100 million, a billionaire told me this. He said, if you have 100 million to make 110 million, you can't find enough space, a place to put your money. It's called inevitable. You're gonna make $110 million. But to go from $100 to $110, that's called work. To go from 100 million to 110 million, that's inevitable. But to go from $1, see, these are the principles that surrounded modern day slavery, corporate America, owning your own business where you trade hours for money. And I had like this moment. I'm like, say what? To go from $100 to 110, that's called work. But 100 million to 110 million, that's called inevitable. Man, my eyes are watering because I still feel that moment when I was there. I'm like, damn, that's good. And I realized that his money was his best slave, but it's the worst master. When you have to work for money, it's the worst master. It'll kick your assets when you're sick. It'll kick your assets when you're tired. It'll kick your, if not, other people will make you feel bad because you didn't work and hit a goal. You didn't pay rent on time. You didn't get this. I remember that life when we had no gas and electricity. I remember that life when rent was due and the man knocks on the door and my dad says, duck. I remember that life when we had our extension cord going out the back window, going to the neighbor's house. I remember that life when I had to figure out before the internet how to take this little electricity circle box off, this little clear glass thing and turn the electricity back. I remember when my friend had to show me how to climb up the pole so we could actually live and not die. I remember that life. So you better believe working and not being lazy for the first time in my life was hard, but staying broke and staying stupid was harder. See, I might not have been the fastest kid, sharpest kid, but I ain't stupid. And I'll tell you this, if I have the opportunity to get my butt in gear and go work every second when no one's looking, invite on a call when no one's looking, and the price, the reward is year after year, top 10 for 20 years in this industry of network marketing where our only profession is communication. I'll tell you, isn't this in a great country? Isn't this a great time to be alive? Aren't we a blessed people to be in ACN? I've never in my life felt more humbled. You know why I read the Bible every day? I told my wife, I said, how incredible is it that we're able to discover what happened to these twins and rescue them from that crap and have the time to do it. God is good. I am so internally grateful for the Lord allowing me to see this company, blessing me with the courage to take action when everybody else is thinking about it, when everybody else is daydreaming about it, when everybody else is talking about it, when everybody else is cooking, eating, sleep, you name it. Giving me the ability to say, I don't care. A no isn't anything compared to a 5th grade class. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. If I can do it, you better believe you can do it. If a guy like me, a simple, ordinary, no one special, never having anyone there to hold my hands, if I can do it, I promise you, someone like you can do it. And if my mentor from afar, Mr. Al Thomas, inspired me enough to get it done, kicks my butt today to get on the call, you better believe he'll be there to kick your butt to get you where you need to go, and be grateful for it. When my buddy called me and said he ran to Mr. Thomas, I said, yeah, that's my, he said, you still talk? I said, yeah, he just flew out for his birthday to have dinner. And this is a man that he doesn't know it, but because of his charismatic self, his lifestyle, his vision, he's blessed many of thousands of people on a minor to a major level. And all I have to do is build into that. What if I sign up 1 out of 10? Great, that's measurable. What if I sign up 1 out of 20? Great, that's measurable. If I want to sign up 10 people a day, that's only 200 people I invite. Mr. Thomas will tell you his first big regional that we did, that once I realized I was committed to this network marketing thing, I invited 250 people, over 250 people. It took 45 minutes to start the meeting because there was 250 guests that needed badges on, and they got tired at the door. They just started writing Dynasty on the name badge. And that was the first day we came up with the team name Dynasty 20 years ago. 45 minutes to start because they had to break down the wall and add another wall. And this is a guy that started, invited with a handful of people, that many people. And we have trouble getting 10 on social media. Come on, somebody. It's just, how bad do we want it? Do we want to sit around and talk about we coulda, shoulda, woulda, we didn't? The guy in the bar talking about how he had his chance to get rich. You know what I love? I love the fact that we don't have to be a victim. We don't. I notice victims love being victims. And I'm tired. I love my mom too much before I even had a family. I love my kids now way too much. There is no reason why I didn't work in the millimeter moments of life. There is no reason. That means me missing Netflix, missing personal time with the family to give them a better life. That's temporary. But having the culture and lack of millimeter moments is cancer, and it will infest your philosophy. It will infest your family. You'll pass that on generation to generation. My greatest gift from my parents was work ethic, even though I was broken and I was the laziest kid, according to my mom, she's ever met. But isn't that interesting that I have a different philosophy today because we can change? And so, ladies and gentlemen, I made it to my 40 minutes. Mr. Thomas said 30 to 40 minutes. I had no time. I had no idea.
Sir, repeat that again. Repeat that again about money is the worst master. Repeat that again.
It's horrible. Money is your worst master.
Money is your worst master.
It'll kick your butt whenever it's the most inconvenient. when you least expect it. It will whip you, beat you. It will manipulate you. Even if you're a trust fund baby. I remember one of my meetings, I signed up the guy that builds all the Walmarts. He builds all the Walmarts, like west of Tennessee, which is a lot of Walmarts. And he buys the land and he zones the land to where you can put a Walmart there in areas where there's endangered animals and all that stuff. And he figured out a way to network and get this stuff done. And guy's ultra wealthy. And his son is the one who signed him up, actually. Same name. His son signs him up. And his first presentation were all CEOs and business owners. And what I realized was most of them were all trust fund babies, miserable. Most of them were alcoholics. And I remember one guy in particular, he stood out the most. He was the heir to WD-40. I don't know if you guys know what that stuff is. I have no idea what WD-5, like I'm the least handy man you ever measured. Most girls are more of a handy girl or man than I am. But WD-40 is the stuff you spray on things that are squeaky, I think, right? And he's the heir to WD-40. And he literally, at 60 something years old, was telling me how he wants to do something. He was talking to me like I was talking to a 20-year-old trying to get their life together, and they were pissed that they haven't figured it out by 20. And I'm sitting here like, is this for real? But he's so serious and so sincere that it's like, I felt so sorry for this guy. He's a trust fund baby. And his whole life, he wasn't allowed to be his own man because he was a slave to his parents' money. And he had no personal power. And personal power, like any power, comes from when you earn it. True power, like the gym. If there is no ripping of the muscle, there is no recovery. There is no new muscle. You know, even when I met Julian was a well-rounded individual. But now Julian is I can't see him on here, but because I only see 5 people, technology is not my friend. But Julian worked his butt off to get into shape. So you can change. It doesn't matter if he was like that his whole life. You can change. People can change, and that's what God gave us. So I hope you guys take that away.
Not only that, when you met Julian and when I met you, what kind of Volkswagen were you driving?
Oh yeah, when I first came into the industry, when I first got into the industry of network marketing, I was driving a $400 car. It was blue and rust. It was I bought it from the San Diego junkyard. It had wooden floors, cinder blocks holding up the driver's seat, and I drove for 5 years. It got me from every job that I had most of the time until it broke down. And I remember a lesson my mom taught me early on in life. I think I was 17. I got in my little Volkswagen. I'm paying half the rent, 17. I'm paying half the bills, not half of all the bills, but half of some of the bills at 17. By 18, I was paying half of all the bills, paying half of rent. And I remember, because I was going between 3 jobs and 1 seasonal job. That was from 16 up. And I remember her having a conversation with me after I ran out of gas. I walked home. She said, "What happened to you?" Because I was drenched in water. It was raining. She goes, I ran out of gas. Can I, and I remember thinking in my mind, I'll tell you the backstory real quick. I went to a call box, didn't work, went to a payphone, called her, walked home less than 3 miles. But before I walked home, I gave my mother a phone call and I asked my mom, could she come get me? She said, "Why would I come get you?" And I said, "Because I ran out of gas." And she said, "You didn't figure that out before you got in the car and looked down to see that there was a car that was empty?" And I remember thinking in my mind, do I even like this woman? Who leaves their kid in the freaking rain? My dad used to tell me people could die from that. He's old school. And I'm thinking, what the heck, man? But I remember when I made a certain amount of money in this industry that I never thought I'd make in a lifetime, I remember writing my mom a check, and at the very bottom, I put tough love. because if it wasn't for her being tough on me, the world would have been tough on me. And if you're tough on your children, the world will be easy on them. And that's something I'll never forget. I love them, but you want to make Mr. Thomas, he wasn't playing. He didn't care if I came on this call and embarrassed myself. No coffee, stuttered all the way through it. Shoot, 12 minutes means 12 minutes.
That's right. Hey, sir, when you got started in network marketing, you had to borrow something from your mom, and then would you give her later in life? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I pawned the television, and people don't know that, but that's how serious I they painted such a good vision. I just thought, man, this is like beyond a dream come true. So that was at the meeting, and I knew it. I was going to go home, get that TV. I told my mentor, meet me at the house at, I think it was 9 a.m. and help me take this TV. It was a big screen TV. This is back when big screen TVs were like the deal. And now if you get caught with a big screen TV, they'll be like, oh, he's doing that bad. But it was one of those big, giant, tall TVs. And I remember my mom and I, it was a gift to each other in December. It was our only gift. That was our Christmas. So I felt entitled to it. I had half the money in that bad boy. So I came home and, I put it this way. I told my mentor, meet me at the house at 9, gave my address. I was excited. They cast such a vision. The minute I walked in that door, I looked at TV, looked at my mom sitting on that couch, and I knew that was the moment I needed to explain to her I'm about to pawn TV next morning. And guess what? I said, nope, that TV ain't going anywhere. That TV is not going anywhere. And so I looked at my mom. I knew how tough she was, and I thought that's just too bad for my mentor. I ain't calling him. That TV ain't going nowhere. He knocks on my door like 20 minutes early, and I'm thinking, oh crap, that's it. And I knew that I had to explain to him that I wasn't going to do it. My mom had left for work, so I opened the door. And as soon as I started shaking my head, he walks in the door. He says, "This the TV?" I was like, "Yeah, but that stuttering thing came back up." And all of a sudden, he started moving the TV out. I'm thinking in my mind, "No, I'm gonna die." And next thing you know, this weak shell of a man, I'm carrying half the TV down the stairs with this guy, thinking, "Why am I doing this? This is horrible. What kind of fool does this? I can say no at any time, and my mom won't kill me." And I'm carried it down. And we went to the pawn shop, and I still didn't have enough. I still didn't have enough money after we went to the pawn shop. And I'll tell you that, it was interesting because we figured out a way, and he sat there and pushed me through that process to get me into the system. And because he was strong enough and lent me his courage, it poured his courage all over me when I didn't have courage to do the thing I needed to do the most. If it was not for that courage, I wouldn't be here today. If it were not for that moment in time, I wouldn't be here today.
So let me say this, folks. Who are you pushing through with courage because you have the vision? Who are you pushing? Most of us are scared to push people. Most of you guys don't have backbone and posture like I do. And it's okay, but I'm trying to encourage you to get the backbone and posture. I'm just tough love. It's fine. You heard Mr. Bragg say that. Last thing we're going to talk about, Mr. Bragg, I think you came to the
here. Let me say this real quick before.
Go ahead.
I used to tell people this my first couple of years. I used to edify Mr. Thomas like crazy, and whenever he'd come around, I thought that was like my one chance in 6 months to really make big, huge checks. And so I would tell the people that were coming around Mr. Thomas, I would say, listen, I couldn't beat them because I didn't have the courage at the time, the way that Mr. Thomas needed to push them into the right area and get it done. So you know what I do? I just bring them and put them in front of him, because I knew he wouldn't care if he met him yesterday or 10 years ago. He'd get that job done. So I just got really good and used my soft personality at the time to allow that bridge to connect them to the source. Instead of me jacking it up in the process, I would just bring them in by the hundreds. No kidding. Mr. Thomas will tell you. So Mr. Thomas at events, there was not a single event where I didn't have over 100 people there, period. Stutter, no stutter, corporate America job, 70-hour a week, college, no college. It didn't matter. If he was coming to town, there were hundreds of guests looking at that event. There was not a single time. And that's where millimeters comes in. It's not calling 5 people, inviting them to a conference call, thinking that I'm in millimeters. No, that's inches. But getting so consistent at that double digits every event invited was just the culture of how we started the team. Sorry.
Just like Mr. Sam Foster said Wednesday night. Matter of fact, Miss Mary Perez and I have a date. We're calling some people right after this call's over here in Vegas, that she got people that want to see the opportunity. I've already seen the 1 through 10. Hey, real quickly, tell them the story about I just got a text. Tell them the story about the Louis 13th and the toilet paper.
Oh my word. Yeah, I remember. I thought I was already in network marketing, right? I remember I had an incentive trip that I wanted, and at the time, my mentor had created such value, and and I didn't realize that, he realized that he had killed my Superman. And one thing I tell people all the time, always tell the truth, because here's the thing. Number one, if you lie about something, you've got to remember the lie. Number two, you're building on a sandy foundation. And I remember my mentor, the first time I ever caught them in a lie, it was when he had told me his income. And in my first company, it was measured based on income. It wasn't measured based on production. And I remember, when I'm thinking that he's at 50,000 plus a month, over 12,000 a week in income. I remember the day that I hit like 30 grand, I remember thinking, oh shoot, I'm catching up. And then I looked at the charts and I realized I was beating him. So he indirectly killed my Superman. And he didn't know he had killed my Superman, I thought. And then I realized he invited me to go look and go hang out at this incentive thing with Mr. Thomas. And Mr. Thomas had some top producers over his home. And now I know what he was doing. And I do this tactic all the time. I put them around a bigger vision, right? And allow somebody else to inspire them. And so he brought me to this thing. I won this trip. I earned it with the group. I finally went. And I remember Mr. Thomas, remember Jay-Z is my mentor at the time, right? Early days before network marketing. And I remember Mr. Thomas jumping on, because Mr. Thomas is not that tall. He kind of a little shorter side. And he jumped on the counter, went up there and grabbed this big giant bottle of Louis the 13th out. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, what the heck? How does this guy even know where to find those? They didn't sell that at my liquor store. Not the one on the next street, not the one on the next street, not the one on the next street. And how does he even have that? That's like a unicorn. They don't really exist. And all of a sudden, he starts lining shot glasses up on the counter. And then he goes and grabs some more shot glasses. Starts lining those shot glasses. I'm like, what's he doing with all these shot glasses? And, they're all lined up. And he grabs this Louis and just starts pouring it. And I don't know if this was a strategy. I really still to this day don't know. But he wasted more Louis on the counters than he did in the shot glasses. And I start thinking, what on earth? Is that legal? Can you do that? Isn't there some kind of authority? There was more Louis on the counter, and my level of lifestyle went through the roof. Everybody got their shot glasses toasted, and all I was doing was thinking. My brain was going. I was moving 100 miles an hour. I wasn't thinking about anything, but I can't wait till they all leave the room so I can scrape it into my shot glass. And that's what I did. And I'm telling you, I don't even eat off of counters, but that was Louis the 13th. That's different. And so I was like, man, this is life right here. And that just messed me up. It just took me to another plateau. I have 2 unopened bottles of Louis here now. It's just one of those things that just stuck with me 20 years later. And it just kind of imprinted that philosophy, so that's why it's important to accept the right philosophies. And, don't get me wrong, there's wrong philosophies of people that I worked with in the past, books I've read, audios. Just take the philosophy that aligns with you and the creator, and whoever you believe in the most, right? And, I'm not going to get in here and preach to you. I believe in God 100%, but I'm not trying to impose that on anyone, but whatever you believe in the most, grab that philosophy from all that personal development. If it doesn't align with that, then that's not something you want to add to your repertoire. And so I took the philosophy that that was in alignment with what the values that I had as a kid in the Christian school, and And that setback, the only school that would take me that had that class to help us speak happened to be a Christian school. So my first 6 years, I went to a Christian school. What the heck, man? So I'll tell you, everything works out in the end. You don't know the path that God has for you. Be careful of the gift that you're throwing away because it doesn't have the wrapping paper in which you thought it would have. Be careful of those gifts. And that gift happened to be ACN. It happened to be tough love. It happened to be working harder than I had ever imagined to get a freedom that I never could have imagined. So I don't know if you guys got anything out of this. I have pretty.
I think Mel, I got a lot out of it. I think after you got the bar, then you asked which way the restroom was, and then you went in the restroom and.
What was that, a $300 restroom break?
And you saw something on the roll.
Oh yeah, the toilet paper. That's funny. Mr. Thomas had $100 bill of toilet paper. I was like, what the heck is this? Yeah, it was a combination of things, and it just changed my life. And but more importantly, what I love about Mr. Thomas, the same guy that he was 20 years ago is the guy that he is today. And you can find stock in that. Warren Buffett, he doesn't buy an investment to make a fortune on. He buys an investment so he can stick with to the day he dies. He never buys a company with the intent to sell. So if you're selling out on yourself, you're selling out on the people you love the most. But if you're committed and you have long-lasting relationships and you take what works for you, leave what doesn't, run as fast as you can to success. Because I'm telling you, the faster you run, the easier this business is. The slower you go, the tougher the business seems, because time is your greatest enemy. And when you get to a point in your life when the road ahead of you is shorter than the road behind you, you really get this conversation. And at that point is when most of us like to throw in the towel. But I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, these are our greatest earning years because there's wisdom attached. But you want to somehow tap into the greatest work ethic. Invite like a madman, invite like a mad woman, invite like your life depends on it, and build into these events, build into the presentations, and then build into your own presentations for your team and watch what happens. I'm just a product of the product. There's nothing special about me. Mr. Julian Lewis is just a product of the product. You know what I mean? It's just that simple, and it's not rocket science. It's not anything that you have to be intelligently smart at. In fact, the people that come in without that humility seem to attract the least amount of people. There's a reason why when I look at the screen, I see heads nodding, people paying attention. I'm not trying to be the sharpest guy. In fact, I'm doing the opposite. I'm telling you I'm not. So you don't need to have any of that fake persona. You just need to be you, be the best you can be, because there's only one of you. And it doesn't matter all those setbacks. There's setups for something great in the future, but just don't tell the horror story while you're in the horror. When you're in the problem, don't talk about it. Don't talk about the bug. Park the damn bug around the corner. You know what I mean? Don't let people come over to a broken down car. You never talk about the problem when you're in the problem. You tell it as a story after the problem.
Yes, sir. There's like 8 people have asked for part 2. So I'm going to see if April the 6th is a Tuesday will work for you. You got your schedule handy?
You know what? It's one day from Monica's birthday. So I plan on doing a surprise. I don't want to mention now because she might be able to hear me. She's out there teaching.
I know her birthday's on the 7th. I already know that.
Yep. Let me see if I can have internet access. Right? If I can get internet access, the answer is, hold on, Monica. Yeah, right. She wouldn't answer anyway.
I tell you what, if that doesn't work, look at April the 3rd. It's a Saturday. I'll have you on my leadership at 6:00 p.m.
So April 3rd, we actually have a regional event with Mr. Cody Mackey.
Oh, Mackey, that's right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Let's see how that 6th work and let me know.
What day is the 6th? Do you know?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday? Yeah, I can more than.
Monica's birthday is Wednesday. The 7th of April is Monica's birthday.
Yeah, more than like, oh, Mr. Is that Mrs. Bundang? Is that? No, that's Ursula, right? Yeah, look at that. I see these names. What's up, y'all? Yeah, no, I'll do my best to be there How about this? Give me 24 hours to confirm with me.
All right, let me know. Everybody, can we show Mr. Nekoda Bragg a sit-down fireside chat? Hope it pierced your heart to let you know, here's a guy 20 years later, top of the game in the business. He's one of the top network marketers in the industry, not just AC in the industry. Here's a guy who said he couldn't even speak and talk. So in other words, what is your excuse? Because all it is what? It's an excuse. Can we show Mr. Bragg some love in the chat? Come on, show him some love in the chat.